Welcome back to Talk Property to Me. My name is Brad East.
I'm Aaron Downie.
And I am Craig Rosy Rosevear, and great to be here with you guys.
Thank you. So Craig, I've worked with Craig for quite a few years now. Craig was working in Newcastle as a real estate agent, recently moved to LA, I believe.
Yeah, so plenty of people have been asking me. I've been over in the US for the last 3 months setting up a real estate business there in conjunction with some old friends and workmates from LA. We lived there back in the early 2000s. There's a bit of background. I was a professional musician, drummer in the Screaming Jets. And if anyone knows, the Screaming Jets were very big in the 90s, early 2000s. And
I think it'd be weird if you didn't know who the Screaming Jets were.
Yeah, so I got into property that way. Our first decent royalty check, we all bought a house. And my buddy Grant Wormsley, the guitar player from the band, he started renovating his house, and then I thought, well, that's what you must do when you buy a house, you renovate. So
Build the equity.
we started doing that. Well, I didn't know what equity was back then. I learned that as I went along. So, we renovated the house, and it was like, I think I ran into my bank manager back then when there was bank managers round, and he said, "Oh, how's that house going that you bought? You probably have a bit of equity in that right now." I'm like, "What's equity?" Like I'm 23 years old, and my real estate journey really started with that conversation with the bank manager about what equity was. And I'm thinking, okay, this is why you renovate a property and you manufacture equity, which is different to equity you get from the market just naturally rising. Manufactured equity, we realized, was a way where you could force the property to increase in value through, painting. You can renovate the backyard. You can install a pool. One of the best ways to do it is to find a property, a home that you can make it into, a 3-bedroom into a 4-bedroom, or a 2-bedroom into a 3-bedroom.
That's exactly what we're doing at Merriweather. Bought the 4-bedder, a little bit run down.
Yep.
Going to renovate, put a second level on.
Yeah.
Another lounge room, another
That's
bedroom.
the way. Can't go wrong, and you're in the 2291. You can't really overcapitalise in these higher level price points because
there's comparative sales in there.
Exactly.
Same postcode, is it?
Yeah.
2291.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, there's definitely that's probably an issue that we had when we lived in Catherine Hill Bay. We went probably a little bit overboard with the landscaping and the pool and everything like that, but there was no comparatives.
Yeah.
So trying to get that extra amount when we sold just wasn't possible.
Very hard. I mean, I've been an agent for many years. So the reason I became an agent was from this journey in equity. So once we realised we could harness the equity in the home to buy another home. Yep. And then when I got another royalty check, we just go, and I built up a portfolio. And, I left the band and then sort of decided to travel to the US, which I did, which we'll come back to in a moment. But then when I came back from the US into Newcastle, me and my wife Belinda, we had pretty much funded our life by flipping homes.
Yep.
And the way I got to be a real estate agent through that was I started to sell the homes myself. And you can sell your own home. Anyone can do that. But you can't sell someone else's. But what was happening, people were coming up to us when we're selling our own properties. They're like, "Oh, I really like this, but I've got to sell mine first." And I'm like, okay, I get it how it works now. So, went and got my real estate license, and then became an auctioneer. I ran into Damien Cooley from the block.
That.
Yeah.
I remember you doing that first.
Had a great time. And I actually started in Sydney and went through all the different markets in Sydney, from Bankstown through to the lower North Shore, the upper North Shore. So I had a real dose of that, Central Coast, and then Newcastle as well, which was fantastic. It got to a point where I'm selling real estate, I'm buying, I'm investing, and real estate's been my life pretty much since the early 2000s. So here we are today talking about that. How did I get into real estate in the US? Well, once again, I was involved with a band in the early 2000s, and one of those guys, he did real estate as well, and had a similar journey to me. And now he's in a situation where we went over there to get our daughter into college. Yep. And I hooked up with my old buddy and one thing leads to another, and there's things happening there. So that's been really fun, and I've been over there. It's been very interesting seeing the full gamut of real estate in Los Angeles. And of course, we all watch the shows, don't we? Your $1 million listing, Selling Sunset.
Yeah,
and
it's all glammed up, that area, isn't it?
Absolutely. But, one of the first open homes I went to in LA was for an $80 million home. And it was like all the TV stars of real estate were there. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. So we have some really incredible experiences. But ironically, when I was there, I was still listing and selling property in Australia because we're in post-COVID. We're in a situation where everything can be done remotely. And I was in a situation where it wasn't really that hard because I could do a lot of things via Zoom. You've got WhatsApp. And, of course, one of the main things about selling real estate is, A, you need to be trusted and honest, and, B, you have to have the motivation to get the highest price for your clients. And, that's me. And so I've been doing that. I've come back now and I've started the Craig Rosy Group, which is a collection of real estate agents that I'll work with in conjunction with Harcourts Newcastle.
Yep.
And I'll continue to run my real estate company both in Newcastle and Los Angeles, and I'll just dart between the two. So
sounds terrible.
there we go.
Yeah, so I sent you a message the other week going, if you need a broker in LA, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
might have to come over for a research mission. You heard that, accountants. It's for work.
Yeah, totally agree. So today is a pivotal day from the US. We've had a big announcement, and why do the people listening to your podcast care about what's happening in the US right now? Well, as we know, whatever happens in America, Australia will follow not long after. And today there's been a rate cut in the US with the interest rates, and that's the first rate cut since COVID, effectively. And we've got a situation now where the rate cut wasn't just a little one; it was
0.5%.
Yeah, 0.5%. So typically, the Federal Reserve Board, which in the US they call it the Fed, typically they'll do a 0.25%, but they've done
similar to here.
Yeah, they've done 0.5. So they've kind of come in. They're calling it a supersized cut. So that's the first one, and the pundits are saying there's maybe two more before the end of the year, which would be incredible.
I think they're worried about the job market. I was reading about it this morning. Really worried about the job market over there, which is a massive issue, and also coming up to Christmas, which is meant to be that peak season for retail. Retail is pretty much dead in Australia and the globe at the moment. So they're really trying to kickstart it before Christmas, from what we can see.
I think the big thing is, though, you are right in saying that Australia follows the Fed, and typically, and it's a very similar economy. But I think what a lot of people don't realise in respects of interest rate rises and how that affects house prices is the money supply, but then personal savings, how that affects personal savings. And regardless of interest rates, we can see the personal savings rate in Australia right now. It's almost zero. It's at the lowest it's ever been for the last 15 years.
The figures I read yesterday was Australia has the lowest disposable income in the world at the moment per capita in the world.
That's incredible. Yeah. What I've seen in the US is I describe it as pent-up procrastination. So you've got a lot of buyers circling, a lot of homeowners that are feeling the pain either through their interest rate hikes or alternatively through natural pain, like we've had more kids, or I'm older, I don't like the stairs. And they're just so scared to do anything about it because the interest, mortgages work differently in the US, where people can lock in for like a 30-year fixed term.
Yep.
So, some people have been locked in at 3%. And, the interest rates, the official interest rate in the US has been around 5%, but by the time the banks get involved, it's around 8%. So they're looking at a situation where I have to switch from 3% to 8%. So
you just can't sell.
Yeah.
Stay there.
That's right. So, now people, I guess, are getting a little bit more incentivized by the fact that there's some light on the end of the horizon there for sure.
Yeah, it does make it harder sort of upgrade or downgrade if you're on a 3% locked in for 30 years. You don't want to touch that one.
That's the thing. Like, there's always the security substitution, but most people, when they're doing their movements, they're either upsizing or downsizing. So security substitutions don't always work.
No, they're hard to line up sometimes.
Yeah.
So overall, is it similar to Australia where the lower price market is selling quickly, the higher price is sitting?
Yeah, I mean,
Like days on market.
Sub $3 million, they move pretty quick. 3 to 5, a little bit slow. It depends on what market you're in though as well. And I mean, there's still some properties moving quickly around the $5 million mark. I was at a home in Beverly Hills 2 weeks ago. It was Kim Kardashian's very first property she bought in Beverly Hills. So anyone who's watched the Kardashians know they live in Calabasas, which in LA terms, living in Calabasas is like it'd be like equivalent to living the distance of say Cessnock to Newcastle. It's probably it's a bit of a drive, but it's beautiful and it's close to Malibu, so that's why you live there. You're in the hills, you can have a big property, but it's sort of a bit out. So I can understand why people want to have like a little another home in Los Angeles. The Beverly Hills is a wonderful area to be, very central, especially if you're involved in the media or anything on television. So she had her original home. She didn't own it anymore. She'd sold it, but the owner of that home was selling the property and it was on the market for $5 million, okay? And it was a wonderful home. Now, it was $5 million because it was on a small block, okay? It had everything you wanted. It had a wonderful pool that you could sit in the living room and see it. Had all the bedrooms. It even had her own hairdressing salon within the home, which was still set up with the chairs. Yeah, exactly. And I was there and I'm like, $5 million for this place, this isn't going to last long. Well, it lasted 2 weeks. Yeah. Okay, and it's under offer right now. So, if you're pricing in line with the market at a price point where people can readily achieve it, they're selling. There's properties listed in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, Bel Air, where the $100 million homes, $80 million homes, $60 million homes.
We just saw there was one in Bellevue Hill that just sold recently for $80 million, and that was a renovation. They purchased that for $23 million about 3 years ago. Another one in Manly that sold recently, fully renovated for $35 million. So a lot of big stocks still trading.
Interesting you say the word renovated because
exactly.
They are the properties that are moving quickly. Anything that doesn't require any work. There's properties. I went to one that was worth $80 million in Beverly Hills, and it was only 20 years old, but it didn't have all the electrical wiring or the TV wiring that we have.
Smart homes
sort
of stuff.
We have now. So that's going to be harder to sell because it's like, well, it's $80 million, probably another 3 to 5 to get it wired up exactly how people like it at that level. So, that will be on the market for a while. Whereas if it was like the shiny new home with all the bells and whistles, it'll be a wider audience because they want new. And then you got the cultures that like new properties as well. So, typically your Chinese buyers, your, Saudis, they like new things and they don't necessarily like just a standard timber home or a traditional home. They like
over the top.
Like super space age sort of things. And LA is a melting pot for all around the world. So it's not just buyers from Los Angeles buying Los Angeles. They're coming from everywhere, and in particular the Middle East and China. And I mean we have a bit of that here too.
Cool. So what's your prediction on rates, I guess, in both countries? Are you thinking a rate reduction in Australia this year or?
Yeah, I mean, round about Melbourne Cup is when they sort of make that big announcement. I
think it is the same day, isn't it?
Yeah. I think we'll start hearing some noise off the back of the rate cut in the US from the media in Australia. I mean, I was watching the Today Show yesterday and there was already sort of talk about the potential for interest rate cuts around here. So I think there may be something that happens there. Hey, I haven't got a crystal ball, but my gut instinct on what's happening overseas and the amount of time it takes to have an effect in Australia, it probably won't be as I guess full on as what's happened in the US, like a 0.5%. I think it might be around about maybe a 0.25, but it'll be enough to get people sort of in the positive mindset for Australia. But what that means, I mean, really, what anyone now who's thinking of buying. And you might be thinking about buying till next year or until you got a solid rate cut, but you should be reaching out to your mortgage brokers and getting your ducks in a row, because that takes time. What's the typical lead time, Brad? You're the expert.
For a pre-approval
Yeah.
a week or two.
Yep.
I had a discussion with a first home buyer yesterday, ready to go. Look, they are literally, they've got the deposit amount, they can borrow probably about $750, not bad for what they're after. They told me yesterday that they wanted to wait until next year until rates go down. And then I explained the capital, also the growth is outstripping their wage growth. So this time, in 6 months' time, the equivalent will be a lot less. Now, I think that's what people are not realising is if you've got the finance there ready to go, use it.
I think
Don't sit in the market.
What a lot of people don't realise, regardless of interest rates, and interest rates always have an impact on the market, but what we've seen with interest rates, and then there's a direct correlation with money supply and property prices, and I put this graph together because I was writing a blog about it this week. That's those two lines are the money supply in Australia and house prices over the last 25 years.
Yeah,
they're almost identical. And you can see on the Trade Economics website, the money supply for the last 2 years in Australia hasn't done anything. The money supply for the last 2 months has increased by, I think it was 0.2 billion.
Yeah.
And each time we've seen that money supply go up, we've seen interest rates start to come down, and it's more a stable economy, and then the market moves.
Yeah, I think most of the big four are now tipping a November rate reduction. But I think it's going to be quite a swift. I think it'll be very similar to the US.
So you think 0.5?
I think it'll be 0.25 to start with.
Yep.
And then I don't think it will do much.
Yeah, and they'll do another one.
Correct.
Before Christmas?
If you look at the one of the last podcasts we did was about the current situation, monetary and fiscal sort of policies at the moment. And you look at that with the disposable household incomes at the moment, dropping 0.25 isn't going to make a huge difference to the economy. And I think they will, similar to when they were putting them up, it won't really do much. So I think they'll have to be quite aggressive to knock the economy back into action. Most of the inflation at the moment is from government spending. It's as simple as that. So the households need a really big boost to really start to get that confidence back in the market and start spending money again.
Yeah, so maybe we see one on Melbourne Cup Day, then another one.
I reckon February. Yeah,
February. So they won't do it.
I don't think so.
Before
I think they
Christmas.
actually have that period off anyway.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
I think they don't meet in December or January.
So what you'll see from a real estate perspective, I mean, spring has always been the time where there's just more buyers around, and more buyers means that there's potentially more sellers, because a lot of those buyers will need to sell their home to go to the next level themselves, to upsize or downsize. So I think the movement will be fast. So for those people who are already prepared, out looking at the market now, have their finance, pre-approved, and they're ready to just put offers in, because I think it's going to happen really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And it's not always the affordability for some people either. It's just that confidence.
Yeah.
It's sort of, if they know that the rates aren't going to keep going up or they're going to start going down, people get that confidence and they want to go out and they start looking again now.
Yeah.
If you reference the Trade Economics website, they're forecasting June 30, 2025, the cash rate will be 3.6%. Now, interest rates, it's always speculation. Economists can't forecast anything, but if that's what rates are going to get to in terms of a buyer's mindset, you go, well, do I capitalise on house prices at the moment because there's a lot of people who aren't buying because of interest rates? Or do I wait until interest rates come down then you got cheaper money, but all the buyers are probably going to come back into the market at the same time, and then you're going to be competing.
Yeah, you'll be in multiple offer situations.
It's going to be similar, like same, isn't it?
Yeah.
Same. It's what happened during COVID. Nobody did anything because they were forecasting the market to crash, and then it did the opposite.
One thing we did learn during COVID in general is these economists don't have a clue.
Yeah, no
They
kidding.
really don't know. It's just like, we think it's going to do this, and they
I
don't have a
remember
clue.
vividly the Commonwealth Bank CEO talking about
20% drop.
yeah in property prices, and it was like the exact opposite.
Correct. I think part of me thinks that he intentionally did that to scare the government into protecting
Is that
their
right?
bonds and their
Yeah.
securities.
Hey,
And it worked.
Yeah.
Because the amount of they dropped rates almost instantly. They did a lot of things to sort of stop that from happening, and it did the opposite. It just
Yeah.
went mental.
well, there's an old saying: you date the interest rate, you marry the home, and typically you own a home for 7 years, typically, and you're moving. Not only are you moving home because you've outgrown it or it's no longer appropriate for your needs, but you're also changing neighbourhoods as well. So it's for all the lifestyle things that brings. So you have to look at yourself and go, well, what's the pain point here, and how long can we sustain the pain before we have to make a change? And waiting for some utopian version of interest rates. But when the interest rates come down, there'll be more buyers out there, so there'll be more competition, and as you said, it can level itself out. So, the smart people get out. It's like when Warren Buffett philosophy. When everyone sells, you start buying, and when they're buying, you sell. So that's it. I think it's time to get out there and get on the front foot and realise that there's going to be more properties hitting the market, which means more choice. More choice in real estate markets. The worst markets I've seen was, one of them, I remember it was maybe 2022, the winter of 2022, there was nothing to buy. There was no properties on the market. There was still people out there looking to buy, but it's kind of like going to a shoe shop and there's like 3 pairs of shoes and they're all black and they're size 8. And you're like, but I'm a size 10 and, this doesn't interest me, whatever.
Toilet rolls on the shelves in the supermarket.
Exactly. But now there's going to be a bunch of size 10 shoes out there, all different colours. And, well, I might go out and try some on, just check it out. So, I think now is the time. And there's no more significant, occurrence than the Federal Reserve reducing the interest rates in the US, which we know will roll onto Australia. So,
the Australian government's already, like the federal government's already pointing fingers at the RBA, blaming them and doing all these things, and all of that sort of lines
Media
up.
attention.
Exactly. Once
That's what we're doing.
It's flooded in the media. It's going to happen. Like, I'd be very surprised if we didn't get a rate reduction in Australia before Christmas.
Yeah, I agree with that too. So, we can't guarantee it. We're not in charge of the RBA.
Just like the economists, we have no idea. We're just guessing.
Yeah, but that doesn't stop, buyers out there right now to get themselves prepared.
100%. As I said previously, if you've got the capacity, if you've got the deposit and you've got everything, just don't wait for the market. Don't wait for the interest rates. Just buy now. Buy while you can. You might regret it.
Over in LA, are you seeing the same that we're seeing here with an ageing population?
Not so much.
Different demographic.
Yeah, not in Los Angeles. It just depends on what culture we have. A lot of the certain cultures like to hold their properties and pass them on to the kids.
Yeah.
But then you go to the Hollywood Hills and they probably turn over those properties. Maybe every 3 years. It's a different thing. Like Hollywood Hills is happening. It's like, you're just above Sunset Strip. There's some really cool homes. You've got a great view. Price point's good. You can get a really nice home for like $2.5 million. But because they're on the hills, typically you're on like 3 levels. Now, if you're on 3 levels, it's great if you're, young couple.
Knees start giving way.
Yeah, but then you have kids. It's like, do I want the kids down on, level 3 and I'm upstairs, like, do I want that to happen? So typically after that, they'll move into like more the flats, say like West Hollywood or even the flats at Beverly Hills. There's some great places around Beverly Grove, but you're moving up price points. But yeah, you'll typically see moving around there, but it's not based on them being too old because, if you look at what happens in Merriweather, like I sell in Merriweather a lot, and those families that have been there for 30, 40 years and big 4 to 5 bedroom homes that typically 2 levels. Like the parents now are in their 70s and 80s, and they hate the stairs, so they sell to downsize, and they typically will move into Newcastle East. And buy a single level apartment either overlooking Newcastle Beach, or they'll buy along the foreshore. And I'm dealing with some clients for now exactly like that. So it's less driven in Los Angeles by the demographic age group, more to do with I guess career advancement. I've got more money. Divorce, that's a big one. So a little bit different, and it also depends on where you are. Where I work in Los Angeles is like Beverly Hills, Hollywood Hills, West LA. So it might be different. Say in Orange County, I don't serve those areas.
Oh, that's pretty much it for today. Thanks for jumping on.
Mate, it's been great. We've covered a lot of ground, but I think, the underlying message is that Big Brother says, which is the US, says stuff's going on, and,
And we've seen it in history. Every time they do something, we follow not long after. So
it's right there for everyone to see.
Good times coming up, hopefully.
Exactly.
Busy 25, I think.
Yeah, I think next year's going to be a really big one for the property market. You look at the immigration levels versus housing approvals and all those things. It's gearing up for a lot more growth over the next few years, that's for sure. And then add the interest rates on top. So,
well, we'll talk again, guys, and signing off.
Speak soon.